So I'm going to drop some news on y'all. And don't go crazy. Don't go going insane here, okay? Just stay calm, cool, and collected. The Cavaliers are the best team in the Eastern Conference. Now, after you're done picking up your jaw off the floor, let's think about how... Are the Cavaliers with LeBron James ever going to be challenged in the East for the next, 3 or 4 seasons? I think they can be challenged once they get into the NBA Finals, whether it be from the Golden State Warriors or the Lakers if they keep on improving, and the T-Wolves if they keep getting better. But in the East, I don't know, man. LeBron has been running this conference for a while. And of course the Cavs are awesome. LeBron can just do whatever the hell he wants when it's driving inside and scoring at the rim. You bring help defense, he'll kick out to somebody. Kyrie Irving can score on you as well. I mean, these guys are awesome. And of course they have a slew of shooters. They have a very good rebounder and defensive big man in Tristan Thompson. Kevin Love's chemistry with the team has improved. Does anybody in the East have a chance of challenging these guys over the next couple of seasons, potentially even beating them? Well, let's start with, I think, the second seed in the East right now, the Atlanta Hawks. So Atlanta, in my opinion, covers one of the 3 things that you need to actually have a chance against the Cavs, which is 1, you need a top 10 player, because LeBron James is so good that even if you play so well defensively, if you get your communication right, your pick and roll defense is awesome, you're switching when you need to, your help defense is always on time, LeBron James can still kill you because he's LeBron frickin' James. So you need someone on the other end who can match that and have that takeover ability, or at least be kind of close to it. And the Hawks don't have that, and they never really have had that. The second thing is you need a slew of good defenders, because even if you're a nice defensive team with a really good philosophy like Atlanta has had for the past few seasons, I mean, the year they won 60 games, they were definitely top 10 in defensive rating. And then last year they were one of the best defensive teams as well. And what happened both times they met the Cavs? They got swept. You know why that is? It's because Atlanta, their game plan makes up for the fact that they don't actually have a lot of natural defenders on their team. I mean, they were rolling with Jeff Teague and Kyle Korver, who's not a good defensive backcourt, and they had Damari Carroll, who's nice, but if he's your only perimeter defender, it's not really working for you. I mean, Atlanta just swarms the ball handler. That's what they do, and that's actually the worst idea possible when you're facing LeBron James. You need guys who can defend one-on-one, and of course, no one can stop LeBron, but if you have at least a couple guys who can slow him down, as well as slow down Kyrie, I think that's the first step towards actually having a chance against the Cavaliers, which I think the Hawks just didn't have for a while. And to be honest, I don't know if they still do, because Schroeder doesn't do much defensively, Bazemore is cool, Kyle Korver is still Korver. I mean, Millsap's awesome on defense, and Dwight Howard is still pretty decent, but I don't think that's enough to deal with the Cavs. And the third thing that Atlanta was never able to deal with was Cleveland's offensive rebounding. I mean, if trying to defend LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love isn't enough, Tristan Thompson can grab offensive rebounds, Kevin Love can grab offensive rebounds, and they had probably the worst rebounding frontcourt in the league with Al Horford and Paul Millsap. I mean, it's no wonder the Hawks got swept. It's like they don't have a top player who can match LeBron, they don't have a slew of good defenders, and they're liable to give up offensive rebounds. Now, with Dwight Howard, okay, they check off one of the 3 things because, I mean, Dwight's a very good rebounder and he's pretty damn big inside, but I still don't think Atlanta has a chance against the Cavs. I think they can maintain being a pretty damn good team because Budenholzer's a great coach and they move the ball really well, and Millsap is probably a top 20 player, but he doesn't really have that takeover ability, so I don't think they have a chance against them. Now, if the Hawks were able to acquire a couple of big athletic wing players who could stretch from outside as well as play defense, okay, but what are the chances of that happening, you know? They're pretty locked into Dennis Schroeder. Defensively, I don't expect much from him, even if he's nice offensively. That's going to be tough for them. If we go to the Toronto Raptors, I think DeMar DeRozan has a chance to become a top 10 player because of how insane he is as a scorer right now. A lot of it's from the mid-range, but it's definitely working out for him. I do want to see if DeRozan can maintain that over the season, as well as go up against the Cavaliers in a 7-game series and consistently hit those big shots to keep the Raptors in the game against the Cavaliers and LeBron. But on the other side, defensively, I mean, Kyle Lowry's pretty nice on defense. I think he can at least contain Kyrie Irving. I also think DeMarre Carroll, again, nice solid defender, has never really been good at defending LeBron one-on-one, not that anybody ever has besides Kawhi Leonard. But he fits the profile of somebody who can at least slow down James. But outside of those two, I mean, DeRozan has never really stepped up defensively, even if he's not bad. The power forward, whose name I can't pronounce, he was actually showing some signs of defense this season, but I think offensively he's still got a ways to go, and I just don't think he's up to the level that they need right now. Valanciunas is nice, but I still don't know if that's enough guys to really go at LeBron James and the Cavaliers. I mean, Norman Powell is interesting. I think his potential improvement over the next couple of seasons as a defensive player, an athlete, and someone who can play in big games, that could be someone. And then you're looking at a team of perhaps Carroll at the small ball 4, Norman Powell at the 3, Valanciunas still at the 5. Then you're getting a few more defensive players in there to maybe give you a chance. But I think for the Raptors to really have the opportunity to beat the Cavaliers, you would need to plop in like Paul Millsap into their power forward spot. Also, DeRozan would still have to improve defensively. I just gotta be honest on that one. Now for DeRozan getting better on defense, I mean, just get better. As for adding potential talent to the team, I mean, Kyle Lowry's going to get like a $25 million contract this offseason from these guys. That makes your chances of signing anybody pretty low. I mean, you could dump Terrence Ross if you want. I mean, he's actually shown some good signs this season. Potentially you could drop Corey Joseph, but he's a nice backup point guard. And it's a lot of risk. Now, if Norman Powell really takes off, then maybe you wouldn't really mind losing Terrence Ross. Personally, I like Powell more than Ross because he's more of a defender. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Jakob Poeltl or the other power forward. I think Siakam. I haven't heard his name, I'm sorry. I watch basketball games on mute. If one of those guys can really emerge, then awesome, but I don't know. This is, if they want to have a chance against the Cavaliers, of course. Moving on to the Celtics. I think the Celtics are beginning to form a defensive thing that could slow down LeBron with Marcus Smart, Jay Crowder, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Amir Johnson. These are guys who are big, strong, decently athletic, depending on their position. And if they get matched up with LeBron or if they provide help defense on LeBron, he actually has to care about them because they're pretty strong and all that stuff. Avery Bradley's great defensively as well, but he's 6'2", like 200 pounds at the most. LeBron's just going to run through him. So they're beginning to build something that could actually slow LeBron down defensively. That being said, the top 10 player is, I don't know. I mean, Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford at their very peak top 20, but that's still not good enough with what LeBron does, especially Horford. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, he's not going to give you more than 15 to 16 points a night consistently. Isaiah might give you 20 to 25 or something, but he doesn't really have that takeover ability to really match or get close to what LeBron does. But not only that, this team is very liable to give up offensive rebounds because Horford is one of the worst rebounding big men in the league. He does everything else well, but when you're going up against Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love, who can just wreak havoc on the offensive boards, I mean, we saw what happened to Horford when he was going up against the Cavs as a member of the Hawks, so I fear a similar thing could happen. But the thing with the Celtics, of course, is those Brooklyn picks, which the Nets are actually a little competitive. They are still one of the worst teams in the league, but they have shown a nice ability to, put shooters on the floor, move the ball around, and their coach is pretty good, so they might finish with a not respectable record, but, maybe instead of you getting the second pick, you end up with, the 8th pick, which can make a big difference, and that might lose a potential top 10 player that you could get from the draft. Which means, once again, you're trying to trade for that top 10 player, or I think Jaylen Brown grows into that, which, Jaylen has looked good. I like his athleticism, I like his composure, his ability to attack the rim, as well as finish at the rim. He had a really good game against LeBron, but asking that guy to become a top 10 player, that's asking a lot of him. Now, could he grow into it? Maybe, I don't know, but that's the sort of thing they would need to really go up against the Cavs. But not only that, they would have to acquire some rebounders. I mean, I know Kenneth Faried is in an interesting situation with the Nuggets. Perhaps he would be someone who would be available for a trade. I think he would be the type of guy who physically could be another guy to slow LeBron as well as Kyrie Irving down, but he's also a very good rebounder, so something like that. I think the Celtics have to either acquire a top 10 player through the draft with the Nets or trade for one, or they're going to have to hope Jaylen Brown really grows into it. Now, in terms of free agency, after next season, both Avery Bradley and Isaiah Thomas's contracts are up, and you're going to have to give both of them around $20 million probably. So the chances of them signing a big free agent would have to happen this year, because they actually have cap space for this season, and then you'd be able to go over your cap to re-sign Bradley and Isaiah. So if you think you have a realistic shot at a star player this free agency, then there is something there. I mean, perhaps you play the Kevin Durant game again, because no one has any idea what's going on in that dude's head. Blake Griffin is an option. There's not really any big-time rebounders in free agency, though, and that is a thing they really need, is a center who can be a presence like that. But still, that's the Celtics for you. Next, we can talk about the Chicago Bulls, who, interestingly, Jimmy Butler is also making a bid for top 10 player because his three-pointers have improved. He was always good defensively. He's getting to the free throw line an insane amount of times a game. But just like DeMar DeRozan, we have to see if Jimmy can really go up against LeBron in a playoff series and be able to match or get close to what he does. Just have that takeover ability, you know? Besides that, Chicago has actually been a pretty nice defensive team this year. Of course, Jimmy Butler is one of the best defenders in the league. Taj Gibson as well as Robin Lopez are good defensively. And watching the Bulls, I mean, they did a really good job off-ball defensively against the Celtics. If I used grammar correctly there, which I probably didn't. However, I am worrisome about the Bulls in the sense of if Kyrie Irving is being defended by Dwayne Wade and Rajon Rondo, he's going to go off and then some when the Cavs play the Bulls in a playoff series. Now, one thing that's interesting is Chicago's actually one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league, so that's an interesting thing that the Cavaliers are going to have to deal with. But I also think Taj Gibson and Robin Lopez could stand their ground against Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson on the boards. But I fear that the Bulls just don't have enough good defensive players, even if they're a nice defensive team overall. And I also don't know if Jimmy Butler can really rise to keeping them afloat while LeBron does his thing. And that's not anything against Jimmy Butler. Like, it's tough, you know? It's not easy to stare LeBron James in the face and actually, you know, try to do it yourself on the other end. Now, Chicago does have a decent amount of cap room after this season, but there are some questions. There's Dwayne Wade's player option. If you want to re-sign Taj Gibson, you're going to have to give him probably like $13 to $15 million, something in there. If you want to bring back Michael Carter-Williams for his defense and size. But the Bulls also have a few intriguing young players. There's Denzel Valentine, there's Jerian Grant, there's Bobby Portis. These are some guys who could grow into some decent players, so I don't count the Bulls out to get better over the next couple of seasons. Good enough to face the Cavs? I don't know. Two more quick ones, the Indiana Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks. For the Pacers, I think Paul George has the potential of someone who could score with LeBron. I mean, he's kind of done it already. We saw it in the playoffs as his Pacers took the Miami Heat to 7 games. I don't think he has the team around him right now. I mean, I've already talked about it. You got worse defensively with Jeff Teague. Monte Ellis isn't a good fit. Thad Young's three-pointers have actually been pretty good, so I think he's an investment for you. But I think this team needs to get better defensively in the backcourt. I also think you could use a 3-and-D player at the shooting guard position. Now, Myles Turner is interesting. If Myles Turner can keep on growing and become potentially a top 20 player with someone who can be a shooter at the big man position and hopefully an all-around scorer, he's already shown potential as a shot blocker. He has to get better overall defensively. Indiana might have something that can really contend with the Cavs, and honestly, if you just replaced Monte with a 3-and-D player, I'd like that team a lot more, so perhaps they're not too far off. I'm not a fan of the coach, but what are you going to do? And as for the Milwaukee Bucks, depending on how much Giannis improves, I mean, he's already got the ball handling, the attacking the rim, and being a playmaker. He's already got all that down, but if he can be a better outside shooter and perhaps make himself like one of the top defensive players in the league, which he's already damn good, but perhaps he can go to another level. I think that's the first step, depending on where Jabari Parker goes. I think there's some potential there. There's also Chris Middleton. I mean, that's looking like a tall team that has the potential of slowing down LeBron. I think the center position needs to be figured out. If you could get a defensive center, I mean, hell, if you got Nerlens Noel, you might have something defensively that LeBron would have to care about in that situation. So I think that's it. I think every other team that I don't talk about here either is too far away or whatever. I mean, Charlotte, they fill a lot of the things, but I just don't think they have the star power. I think by the time the Sixers are good, the Cavs are going to be a little too old, or at least LeBron will. Also for the Pistons, I think Drummond needs to make a lot of strides in terms of being a low-post player, also defensively. I mean, he's the guy who has to become top 10 for them. Tobias Harris needs to get better on defense. They do have potential for a switching defensive team with Pope and Morris and Stanley Johnson off the bench, but I do think there needs to be more improvement internally from them pretty much everywhere. And besides that, I don't frickin' know. Video's like 17 minutes, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching.